In North Queensland, this is Townsville, and this is the Sucragen 400. Races 14 and 15 this weekend of the V8 Supercar Championship. Under clear blue skies, nice breeze, about 25 degrees. And the grid is absolutely grid-locked. 27 degrees it is right now, so picture-perfect atmosphere. Already today, Mark Winterbottom has claimed pole position to make it 4 straight. First time since Mark Scaife did it 13 years ago. So it's quite an achievement for Frosty, but he's still in search of his first race win. So 28 starters will have 200 kilometres is the distance, 72 laps that is around this circuit. And let's take a look at it in detail, Scaife. 2.86 kilometres, a bit of resurfacing as well.
Yeah, Matt, so there's resurfacing at turn 3 and turn 8. It's a real mix of a traditional racetrack on the right-hand side of your screen, on the eastern end of the track, and on the western end of the track, it's a street circuit. So we call it a hybrid circuit. It's got some real mix of fast and slow speed corners. They're your sectors, 3 sectors as the lap is currently split. And it, as I said, it's a place that's a very compact style of circuit, but it's got a really good flow, and the fast section of turn 5 and 6 is probably the highlight of the lap as we go on to the front of the Fujitsu old Chevrolet Eldorado.
Well, look out, Larko might go and grab that.
Yeah, exactly. Where is Larko?
Of course, Austin, Texas has been confirmed as our next overseas venue in the V8 Supercar Championship in 2013. And you might notice this, a bit of a different look this weekend, a lot of a different look this weekend for Team Vodafone, supporting Geckos, the Defence Family Centre at Laverick Barracks. So they've gone all Army on us, and I mean full Army. Check this out, Mark Dutton in there, he's got the Army gear on. Roland Dane's walking around in camouflage.
Yeah, we're calling him Colonel.
Colonel Dane. It's great, they're supporting the local military families, and of course our Australian military doing such a great job. In fact, there's something like 1,300 US military personnel in Townsville this weekend. They've been out for a long time, and they've been out all night, I think, and I think they're going to be out all weekend. So that's the championship picture. Jamie Whincup comes into this weekend with just 156 points buffer from his teammate. Remember, there's 150 up for the winner of each race, Shane Van Gisbergen, moving in. But as Neil Crompton pointed out earlier, it's been chopping and changing around the top 10. Let's take a look at the Fuso start grid after quite an interesting qualifying session. Mark Winterbottom, 4 straight poles now, but he hasn't had a race win since Tasmania last year. Second row of the grid, Will Davison, his best qualifier since our round at Barbagallo. He's alongside the other Army car of Craig Lowndes. Garth Tander there, who's celebrated becoming a dad since we last saw him. Leanne giving birth to baby Scarlett. He'll start from position number 5 with Lee Holsworth. Stevie Johnson, 8 straight top 10 starts now, next to David Reynolds, who turned 26 last Sunday. There's Rick Kelly, Jack Daniels Racing, and Steve Owen inside the top 10. Rick's got 2 race wins for 2011 so far. It was a case it could have been for Fabian Coulthard and Jonathan Webb, both hovering around the top 10, unlucky not to make it into the shootout. Jason Bargwanna, his 165th championship event alongside Michael Caruso. There's Paul Dumbrell and James Moffat. James making his V8 Supercar debut at this track, but he has had success here in the Fujitsu. Greg Murphy joins the 400 race club today. Russell Ingall will make his 461st race start. There's James Courtney, isn't that incredible? A defending series champion down in 19th position. He's 16th now in the championship. And James has made it clear from here on in, he doesn't think he's going to defend his championship title, so he's going to go for broke. Wouldn't it be great to see him work his way through the field? Todd Kelly and Tony D'Alberto hasn't had a good run here. 4 races for Tony, 3 DNFs. Dean Fiore and Alex Davison starting in 26th position. At our last event on the Saturday, he started from 24th, so it's been a slow start to the weekends for Alex Davo, and the rear of the grid brought up by Warren Luff and Carl Reindler. So there's your 28 starters. Remember, the soft tyre comes into play today. On our timing monitor so far, we've only got 2 drivers showing soft tyres on. David Reynolds and Paul Dumbrell will get that confirmed.
So we've seen strategy play out in Darwin at the recent round, and here we'll have a similar style of scenario with only 2 on the soft tyre, but the field will search for the soft tyre to sprint to the end on. So this is going to have an intriguing battle, Croppo, isn't it? It's going to be one of those things of, at some point, you would have to think there'll be a safety car. At some point in the race, you'll have to make your mind up to get onto the soft tyre. And we know that this is going to be very, very hard on the left-hand rear tyre at this circuit. Harder than Darwin.
And everybody that we've spoken to that's been in the driver's seat all weekend is talking about how hard it is on rear tyres. Don't forget that if you're out and about, you can catch Seven's coverage live and exclusively on your Telstra Next G mobile. Keep up with all of the information and what's going on out here for race 14, the Superagent Townsville 400.
So sorry Neil, just confirming those couple of guys, Davey Reynolds and Paul Umbrella, the only two that have gone on soft tyres. You might recall at Darwin, we saw 888 change their tyres just right at the last moment. And a lot of conjecture along the pit lane. People want to know who's doing what. Just quickly think that through. If Paul Umbrella and Davey get a bolt here and can get through the field and lead, and if we don't get a safety car right through, let's say we do get one around lap 40, as we alluded to earlier, and they put their hard tyres on at that point in time, they're actually in very, very good shape.
Wandering in and out of some of the garages, chatting to the engineers, they think that the tyre degradation here won't be as drastic as people think, and the consensus at the moment appears to be a 29-lap run on the softs at the end. I'm not convinced though, boys.
Well, I'm certainly not convinced, Cam, because everyone we've spoken to has basically said what Mark Larkham said at the start of this event, and said that if you get caught for, say, 30 laps, then you're over and out. The hard tyre will live much better than the softer tyre over a longer run. So we've got on board for so many of these cars now. We're going to catch as much of this in-car action today for you, because this will be on for young and old. This has always been a great race, and expect another great race today.
Scafey, just very quickly, mate, Paul Dumbrell did do an 18-lap run on a used soft tyre yesterday, and I can tell you, I've got a wink and a nod, they reckon 15's about it.
Exactly, and a used tyre, Larko, we know, because they've cured, because they've had a heat cycle, they will hang in longer. So the tyres that they've got to put on today are brand new green tyres. So that will make a difference to the durability. Mark Dutton there just moving Jamie Whincup up to the front of the grid. This is a very important start. It's hard to pass here, and Mark Winterbottom and Jamie Whincup will be vying for first corner supremacy.
And as I alluded on the grid, given the tyres that are on David Reynolds' car, he's going to be a real force in this early phase of the race. Whether that proves to be smart strategy, we're about to find out, but I think it's going to be very difficult, particularly if we get that likely safety car, which history shows is highly probable.
The last time we let them loose up at Hidden Valley in Darwin, they came up with a cracker of a race. At the front of the grid, Jamie Whincup against Mark Winterbottom. Under perfect blue skies here in Townsville, it is time to go racing. And Winterbottom's got off to a flyer. From pole position, he gets supremacy. Will Davison's gone with him, and Jamie Whincup will have to slot into third spot. Lowndes gets pushed out wide. Something
going on up the back, because there were yellow flags flying towards the rear.
Make that fourth spot for Jamie Whincup, because Garth Tander snuck in there as well. Shane Van Gisbergen gets a little bit loose down towards turn 3.
It was a very even start, Matt. Everybody got a really good jump. Dave Reynolds on the soft tyre got a really good jump also.
I think Whincup got that spot back from Tander.
And the car that was disappearing south through the field was Jonathan Webb. He qualified 12th, and he's right at the back of the pack now. So that was the kerfuffle that we could see. Look at Reynolds with the soft tyres. Straight down the inside. Tander, tick. Fourth now for him.
Dumbrell's the other one on softs, so he'll be picking through the field as well. So first time around, Winterbottom leads them. Great start from Will Davison. There's Whincup. There is Reynolds. That's Garth Tander. Oh, somebody's had a spin.
Van Gisbergen. He's been bumped from behind. We'll get a look at that for you, but that's turn 13 coming onto the straight. And there's been contact for sure.
He thinks it was his teammate, Tim Slade. He just jumped on the radio and said, I think that was Tim.
Looking at aggro little Garrards afterwards with that one. So here's Dave Reynolds, forging his way up behind Whincup. You can see him there, right in behind Whincup at turn 5 and 6. These are these incredibly fast fourth gear, flowing corners, and down the inside at 7, straight down the inside. Good pass, Dave Reynolds.
He's just playing a completely different ball game with these soft tyres. And as I mentioned, Dumbrell is the only other driver in the field on the softs.
Now, David wasn't here in 2010. He did have a run at this circuit the first year in 09. When you look at his stats so far this year, he has had some great qualifying performances. As I said just before, 5 of them inside the top 10, but conversion has been difficult. He's done the fastest splits through to the second sector on this lap. Now he's got a bit of traffic to deal with.
Oh, that was more reaction time. That was a very even start in terms of the 2 FPR cars, but Jamie just missed the kick slightly. And then have a look at this, have a look at the chaos, because Tanner's down the outside and there's plenty of action back behind, because in the right-hand rear vision mirror was Dave Reynolds. And this is the thing that Neil spoke about in terms of Jonathan Webb on the left of your screen there, caught out and went from 12th position way down the back. And now here is Van Gisbergen down the inside. Tim Slade, teammate, gone.
Paul Forgy was just on the radio a moment ago talking to Shane, calming him down, explaining that no, it wasn't. It was that we sort of identified all those that were around, but unfortunately the video evidence suggests that the 2 teammates have made accidental contact there. That's a shame. Dumbrell's done the fastest lap of the race. Reynolds is very quick through the sectors. No surprise. It's game on as the Stratco car winds through the pack.
Sometimes we've had this controversial debate before, Crompo, about teammates running into each other. Last year here, Courtney turned Steve Johnson around. There was no penalty for that. Right now, a teammate turning Van Gisbergen around, normally you'd be gone.
Well, a competitor, in my view, is a competitor.
I totally agree.
It doesn't matter who the entrant is. It's either right or it's wrong.
So, the winners and losers, Dave Reynolds, 4 positions, and Paul Dumbrell, 4 positions. As you would expect, the only 2 guys on soft tyres have made the most ground. That's the exit of turn 3, and this is turn 6. 140 kilometres an hour, mid-corner speed. What a great shot.
And I know that it's irrational, but I can't help but duck. I do it every time. I start to flinch. 14-1. Paul Dumbrell, fastest lap, better lap again, and here we go down the inside for David. That's second now for him. He's got to make him work, though.
And you've got to do it without hurting it too, mate, don't you? So the left-hand rear tyre we know is really being punished, but you can't use them too hard. This will be the thing that'll guide this race, won't it? How these guys make the tyres live, everyone in pit lane will learn from.
The learning aspect of that's going to be very important. So they've gone out there and they've set an agenda that others can copy. So faster lap again from Paul Dumbrell in position 8 now, a 1:14.0 with a heavy fuel load. There are your margins at the base of screen. Winner bottom from Reynolds, Will Davison. Ford Performance Racing cars are 1 and 3.
Good job, buddy. Don't stop around here. Doing really well. That's 5 laps down. Okay, eyes ahead. Right, nice and easy. Don't forget that front line. Good, good job so far. Keep it up.
Hope you're enjoying your Saturday afternoon supercars here on 7 from Townsville. David Reynolds has taken over the race lead on soft tyres. He's gone around Mark Winterbottom, who really has no defence. Paul Dumbrell, who you're riding with right now, is 5th. Dumbrell, of course, started 15th. The other driver on soft tyres. That's what the ST stands for on your Coates Hire leaderboard. So those two guys just picking their way through the field. But then it becomes a matter of how long these tyres will last for them, what benefits they can get at the head of the field. And I wonder, Crompo, how much this is going to do for somebody like David Reynolds, who, as we've mentioned, showed a lot of promise and pretty good qualifiers on the weekends, but no results whatsoever. You have to go back to Adelaide to find him in the top 15 of results. Maybe being out in front, being ahead of all the trouble and having the race to himself for a while may well help.
Here's the replay of his move down the inside of Mark Winterbottom at turn 2. Yeah, it was 4th place, the second race at the Clipsal 500. Mark Scaife and I were talking during the ad break that it's good for his credentials. He's a young guy in a hurry. He's doing very well. To lead that group of Kelly cars is no mean feat. And he's driving very well, very aggressively. And even if it turns out to be the wrong strategy today, Matt, it's just good for him, his sponsors and his team and all those that surround him to get a bit of sugar from their efforts. And, you know, all credit to him. The other thing that needs to be tidied up here is that Tim Slade, car 47, Lucky 7 Racing, has a drive-through penalty for the contact at turn 13 with his teammate Shane Van Gisbergen. Shane's still steaming about that at the moment. And I'm glad that that decision came from race control, as Mark Scaife alluded before. It's always seemed odd to us that if it happens within the same team, the same team, I should say, that all of a sudden there's no wrongdoing. So good call.
Scaife, Larko, I'd just like to ask you a question. Now you've driven around here in one of these cars, I mean, and you said to me just how busy it was, so you can't really give the tyre much relief. So Davey Reynolds is out in front. He really needs to get some value from these tyres. You know, he can bring his front anti-roll bar up, stiffen the front of the car, and give the rear tyre a bit of relief. But, mate, how would you do it? How would you drive the car around here now, gain more track position, and look after the tyre around here?
Well, patience probably, Larko. You've got to accept that the left-hand rear tyre is going to be punished, and then you've got to short shift in the places where the wheel spin's bad. So especially out of turn 11 around turn 12 to the final corner at turn 13, limit the wheel spin and limit the load. So try to square the car off, as Neil often says, make the exit of the corner as straight as you possibly can and make sure that you don't burst the car into wheel spin. Dave Reynolds is actually driving the car very straight at the moment, and this is on for young and old as Dumbrell gets down the inside of Will Davison at turn 8.
Sorry, Scaife, when you said Crompo square the car off, I thought that you meant that crash it. He was pretty good at that. He used to square up quite a few.
That was interesting there to watch Paul Dumbrell have to fight to get past his teammate, and he's clearly got a faster car. He's got the soft tyres, but at this circuit, that's what adds the difference, because at this circuit, it's really hard to get around. He was clearly quicker over the last 4 laps, toe-to-toe, but he still had to fight to get around him. That's what a street circuit will do to you.
Mark made the point before about David being able to drive his car on the sprint tyre, the soft tyre, straight. Paul Dumbrell hasn't had that benefit. Yeah, he's had to work a lot harder, dealing with the traffic, exciting the throttle to be able to manoeuvre the car around. I'm pretty certain of the fact that by the time he finds this clean air that he's in now, he won't be in the same sort of grip position that David Reynolds is.
Well, last time around, David Reynolds did a 1:13.9. Paul Dumbrell did a 1:15.4, having to work his way through all that traffic.
Yeah, the traffic, the battle that he was having with Will is going to play a major role in the lap time there.
No doubt, and when you do it, when you're actually trying to get by, you have to use the throttle hard, Neil, don't you? You can't just apply the throttle gently and do what I said about the short shifting, etc. You have to work it hard to do it. That's a great shot.
David Reynolds is so far ahead, he's out of range of our chopper. He's 3.6 seconds further up the road. This is coming down to turn 11. Beautiful amphitheatre here. Grandstand seating as they come around, snake around 12. And the drivers always talk about the crowd here. You can hear one of those rare places where you can hear the crowd above the roar of the V8 supercar. Carnival atmosphere. Lots of stuff for everybody to do. And there is our race leader now. 3.6 seconds it remains. Clear of Mark Winterbottom. Dumbrell's waiting to pounce on Winterbottom. Will Davison's behind him. Jamie Whincup is 5th. Gart Tander, Craig Lowndes, Lee Holdsworth, Stevie Johnson and Rick Kelly.
Now it's a straight reference between David Reynolds and Mark Winterbottom. Look at the two different tyres, look at the lap speed. It was 0.7 of a second difference. So David Reynolds enjoying the grip advantage at the moment. He can't do too much of that sliding that we're seeing there at the moment. See what the crossover point is between the two tyres very shortly.
Good job. Head down. Keep trucking along. 11 laps down now. Last lap was a 14. Too slow. About 5 laps to go. Keep it up. Doing a good job.
What a place. Easy to lose your focus in this part of the world, but this entire town right now is gravitated towards Reed Park Circuit because the V8 supercars are in town. You can hear them, you can feel them, you can smell them, and they're putting on a good race. David Reynolds leads the way on the soft tyre, punching out fast lap after fast lap, now 5.9 seconds ahead. And this is interesting. Mark Winterbottom is 2nd. He's on the hard tyre. Paul Dumbrell is 3rd on the softer tyre. So it's only a matter of time, but this is a really important time for Winterbottom to try and hold that track position for as long as he can. The thing to remember is they're both out of the same garage.
Now, already the numbers between the hard and soft guys beginning to fuse. So here comes Dumbrell for a run down the inside of his teammate Mark Winterbottom at turn 2. Should get that done pretty easy, and he does. Frosty makes it easy in car 95.
Gee, he only just made it. Crobbo almost outbraked himself.
Standing on its nose. But looking at the sector splits between Reynolds and Winterbottom, I know the positions have just changed. It's starting to tighten up now because we talked about the crossover point. Frankly, it's come a bit later in the race than I thought. So the soft tyres probably hung on a bit longer for lap speed than we were theorising. That's Dave Patterson. Centre of screen, Dean Canto, who's having a drive this weekend as well, and we can expect to see him in the endurance races later in the year. And Matt Nilsson was the guy that jumped in on the left side.
Big mistake. Big mistake for Whincup. That's a big mistake. The left-hand front tyre, fortunately, be able to take that tyre off soon. But that would normally be a problem throughout the rest of the lap, with a big left-hand front lock-up as the car's slightly loaded on the way into turn 8.
So that soft tyre has now done 13 full laps, about to make that 14. As Reynolds goes through, Kelly Brothers Racing leading the way. Then it's 3 Ford Performance Racing cars of Dumbrell, Winterbottom and Davison, positions 2, 3 and 4. Seen Vodafone's Jamie Whincup, championship leader in 5th. Garth Tander, re-signed with the Tull Holden Racing team, is in 6th. Craig Lowndes will come into view soon in 7th. That's the second camouflage car. And there's Lee Holdsworth. Stevie Johnson's a little bit further back. There's a bit of a stretch effect going on in the top 10. And Rick Kelly is currently in 10th spot. The rest of the field, before they start making that pit stop changes, Steve Owen is in 11th, Michael Caruso is in 12th, Fabian Coulthard, Greg Murphy, Jason Barguana, Russell Ingall, James Courtney 17th. Jason Bright, Todd Kelly and John Webb make up the top 20. So the job for this man, David Reynolds, is to keep his cool, and he's doing it brilliantly, Mark. He's 7.3 seconds ahead. So we've talked about a number of things about having a start on the soft tyre. You've got to make it work for you. Yeah. Job number 1, I guess, if you're not at the front of the field, get to the front of the field. That box ticked. Job number 2, don't wreck the tyres too fast. That job appears to be ticked because the gap continues to grow for him. And it's almost a case of when you get out there, the speed doesn't matter anymore. It's steady as she goes.
Well, that's right. And what you've got to do with it, Matt, then is to get a flow going so you look after the tyre. And we were just laughing, Neil and I, a second ago, because when you lead, you know, your first race, especially at this level against guys that you've got around you, the best drivers of these cars in the world, and you'd be hanging onto that steering wheel so tight. He needs to have that little signal, breathe, Dave, breathe.
Well, it's a funny process because, you know, when you work hard in your junior part of your career and you finally find yourself in the position where you head the field, it does look, feel and sound different. It's a different mental process as well, and it's kind of like, where are they?
Absolutely.
And still remember, boys, the big white elephant in the room, or the big elephant in the room for all of this is the safety car, because remember, if that rolls out now at any point, this lead they've got is negated, and at some point in the race they're going to be in amongst all the other guys who have yet to put their sprint tyre on. So remember, I think you said to me, Scapey, some of the early safety cars were a result of track breakup here, which we're now on top of, I believe, so we may not see that.
That's right. Traditionally, we've had a couple of safety cars, Larko, and again, what happens with the track surface at turn 3 and turn 8 will be interesting to see whether that holds together as this race unfolds.
8.3 seconds margin, Reynolds to Dumbrell. Soft tyres have the top spots at the moment, then Winterbottom, Davison, Whincup, Tander, Lowndes, Holdsworth, Johnson, Kelly. James Courtney's come to the pits. They asked him a moment ago whether or not he'd make more speed in clear air. He's been battling with Russell Ingall. So what they're doing here now is they're doing the strategy that Mark Larkham speaks about often, and that is reversing the race, working from the back.
Okay, clear when it drops, mate.
Scott Sinclair on the radio. Stall. So they've brought him in first.
Good. 4 cold tyres, so we just need to get our head down here and get some laps in. We're going to have to clear track for a few laps, so nice smooth one.
And the light on the top of the wheel just indicates that he's got his pit lane speed limiter on, the electronic limit of 40 kilometres an hour. That'll be flicked off at the control line. Now James gets the benefit here of clear road. That's why they did this. They want him to get his head down, as you heard Scotty say a moment ago, and try and put together some numbers that'll vault him away from that group that he was racing. So they've fueled the car on hard tyres. They'll run it right to the end. They'll get about 29-ish laps out of it, and then they'll fuel up again for another stint to the end of the race.
But he's gone a lap down. Yeah. That's the drama, because if the safety car comes out now, it really punishes you.
Yeah, they're looking for a much better weekend at HRT this time around. It was a disaster in Darwin. They've made a few changes. They've signed up Garth. Ryan Walkinshaw was out here, said, we're not selling, we're in this for the long haul, so let's get our heads down and focus.
The other problem for those guys in that garage at the Tull Holden Racing team is that when you've decided to run that short first stint, that was the time to have the softs on.
That's right.
Because now somewhere along the line, unless you get a safety car benefit, you're going to face the very gruesome task of trying to make soft tyres do the near impossible. Somewhere along the line, it's going to be in the next stint, because we've just seen him go out on hard tyres. At least I think we did.
Yep. I've been watching the times, boys, of Reynolds versus Dumbrell at the front of the field. Both started on soft tyres, so they've now completed 17 laps on the soft tyres, and the gap's gone out to 9.2 seconds. Last time around, David Reynolds did a lap time that was about half a second quicker than Paul Dumbrell, and it won't be too far off this time around. In fact, almost exactly the same, 0.6 of a second quicker. So they've got no traffic to fight with. David Reynolds is just doing a better job on the soft tyres than the guy behind him.
Yeah, David had a much clearer track to deal with. So the gain that he's got at the moment over Paul Dumbrell, it's a little bit of an unfair comparison. David's enjoyed 0.55 of a second advantage every lap. If you just do simple maths, you call it
half a second a lap.
Yeah.
But the crossover point's almost there now, because on the last lap, when Reynolds did a 14.65, the guys on hard tyres had done a 15 dead effectively. So they're right at that cusp now where the soft tyre is not much faster than the harder, more durable tyre. Russell Engel in the pits. 4 tyres for Russell. 4 tyres also there for Caruso. Jason Bargwanna in the pit, just in behind. So 3 cars in to make their first stop. And there's our race leader. So Bargwanna will be trying not to go a lap down.
And just confirming, Scapey, all those cars you see exiting the pit lane now are all gone out again on hards, as we anticipated. So there's another bit of a strategy, the reverse window that Neil talked about there a little earlier. Got Courtney nicely out of traffic. These guys, they get into that area where they're sort of splitting the race into equal parts of 3. Nice to spread your tyres across that, but also get you into an area where your fuel fill, as we just saw then, roughly corresponds with the time to put 4 tyres on. Not a bad strategy either.
And Larko, interestingly, every single car that has stopped for the hards has made roll centre changes. So you just wonder if they're starting to make some changes on the hard tyre, how they're going to get that 29-lap window at the end out of the softs. But certainly BJR in particular making a roll centre change.
And simply by virtue of the fact that Jason Bargwanna came in and changed tyres, now David Reynolds has some traffic in front of him. He still leads the race. In fact, he leads it by more than 10 seconds. As the strategy game continues here at the Supercharge Townsville 400.
Straight into the box, there's no one in the lane at the moment, should be all clear.
Paul Dumbrell has decided enough is enough on the soft tyre. In he comes. Garth's hand is in as well.
Okay, mate, so you want your PD coming out.
So effectively 21 laps for Dumbrell.
And they made that call just at the point where the speed equalised between the 2 tyre types. We were very closely observing their sector splits, and it seems to have been in this recent zone the last couple of laps where we've seen David Reynolds and formerly Paul Dumbrell and the rest of the field speed equalise, certainly those at the top of the tree. So they didn't want to get into a point of deficit with the softer tyre where it's actually hurting them to be on it. They've yanked it off. It's probably not ideal in terms of their fuel range, but they can't afford to be out there on a dying tyre at the moment. So they'll take a gamble with safety car and other things to come later in the race.
It's amazing in the field, the consistency through the field. Todd Kelly's come right up to 13th position. He's only, at the moment, he's only about 1/10 of a second slower than the front guys on hard tyres. So basically everybody, as we look at Tim Slade's Lucky 7 Falcon in the Stone Brothers pit. But what I'm saying is that Jason Bright, Greg Murphy, Todd Kelly, Fabian Coulthard, there's a lot of the guys in the middle of the field that are as fast as the guys at the front. So it'll be a very interesting scenario as this race unfolds as to what car works well with the soft tyre, because so many of them are very, very similar on the hard tyre.
And we'll try and find out for you whether the Tim Slade car in the bunker is as a result of the contact on lap 1 at turn 13, car 47, or whether they've got some other problem with that car.
That was messy, very messy this. In fact, it'll battle not to stall when it drops on the ground because it's engaged the clutch. He got away with it. So when you see that wheel turn there, it's the clutch dragging, and I thought as soon as it would drop, much more prone to turn the engine off. Garth Tander.
Quick on those new tyres as Jamie Whincup comes in, and he probably put a mark on those tyres. We saw him before that lock-up over at turn 6, 5 and 6.
Key reminder there for Jamie Whincup was cold tyres.
Look how slow and no fuss this team operates at a very high level, and we always say when there's minimal panic and a really professional job, it looks slow, and that was a great indication of that style of stop. Garth Tanner's just done the fastest lap of the race with a 13.67, and he's jumped Jamie Whincup in that process. He was behind Whincup before the stops. And Garth now, if you just look up the road a little bit. Oh, Reynolds, big slide. So those tyres starting to drop off dramatically. And is he in?
Well, no, 16.1 on the last lap as a result of the tank slapper. So he's got to get off those tyres now, or he begins to unravel all the good.
Just an update from down here with Tim Slade's garage. You'll probably see him out towards the end of the race. Broken axle, so nothing to do with that contact. And broken axle, that sort of thing, not unusual at this sort of circle with aggressive curbs. Very hard as you're trying to put power to the ground. 650 horses of it. A lot of stress on the drivetrain.
Okay, Mark Winterbottom's in.
I got you. Rear on. Right, clear into me. Stopping on the four sides. Full out, full of gas. Stop. Hold it. Tyres are done. Hold it. Yours ready. Hold it. Go.
The thing about that issue with the rear axle in Tim Slade's car, yesterday we saw the rarity in the Fujitsu car, the Gary Rogers car, driven by Michael Caruso, tearing one of the mountings, one of the ears off what we describe as the diff housing. So that underlines the point that Mark Larkin was making, that this place, because of the very high intensity smack as David now comes in, that you see when the cars mount those curbs over the back, particularly over turns 5 and 6, puts huge shock energy through the car. Now you can see David's just struggling massively here, so he had no choice.
Oh, that's a big hit. That is a big hit
on James Courtney.
And he couldn't see him. You can't see the next car
he's trying to get to the pit lane. He's trying to actually get...
That's right. That will have damaged Courtney's car for sure.
And now that's effectively a triple whammy. So he had all that track space. He made great use of the soft tyre. We talked about when the traffic started to come back to him, it became a different ball game. Then he made a little mistake, and then all of a sudden, in trying to get himself back in because the tyres were shot, he makes an even bigger mistake. It unravels a lot of the hard work that David Reynolds has just done.
James Courtney's shaking his head in the car. He can't believe his luck. He's had, I think, 4 bent steering arms so far this year, and it looks like another one there.
And that
Going to
was...
wheel it in, but yeah, big hit, guys.
I agree, Cam. That was a very unfortunate position for James Courtney. As we see, I think it was Bargwanna. I thought it was Bargwanna. No, sorry, it was Russell Engel. There's Bargwanna, and in behind Bargwanna, no way that Dave Reynolds could see with that proximity of the cars.
And these replays are really unravelling the mystery, because as soon as Bargs went past, David Reynolds tucked in as you do, because he had to make that blend line there and get into the right side. Good, smart move by Courtney, because he only had a millisecond to make the call. I've got to get in the lane, rather than limp around for a lap. So good situational awareness, because he can't run over that little floppy that you saw down there, that yellow nylon bollard.
But a bit of an experience there from the whole team in the way that they've applied strategy to Dave Reynolds. He should have come in 3 or 4 laps earlier.
Well, they were doing it, they were trying to stretch for fuel, no doubt.
Tander's the guy that's jumped. He has, for whatever reason, he has made big ground on the guys he was racing. So in terms of the Wing Cup and Winterbottom cars, you have a look here in a second, Tander's already gone. More drama for
Coulthard and Bargwanna here.
Bargwanna, who was involved. Sort of got by the previous drama there. Now Coulthard run wide.
The reason, I mean, it's been a good strategy play by Tander and the Toll Holden racing team, but he's actually very fast on the hard tyre. So when he first put those tyres on the car, he set the fastest lap of the race, and that stands.
They're going sideways here. Jason Bright has the race lead, but Dumbrell and David Reynolds are just staging their own little battle here.
And that's 10 seconds. He had a 10-second lead over Dumbrell. That is over now.
And
so all that really brilliant work that he did, and the team did a really good job of strategizing that. A little bit of inexperience means you stay out a bit long, and it's all negated.
And it's compounded because David's tyres were dying. Paul Dumbrell's got on new tyres. So if you plot those two timelines, it just compresses like you can't believe. And all of a sudden, it's like, where did that margin go? It doesn't take very many laps.
Bright and Fiore have come into pit lane. So that now means that the field has been cleansed and Paul Dumbrell has popped out the best of the lot. Quite an extraordinary set of circumstances here at the Supergen 400. Need to grab a breather. We'll be back with you in just a second.
Good job, buddy, good job. Right, get your head down, concentrate, look after those reels. Your pace is good again on the hard compared to others. Good pace. Use one if you need the time. Job TT, that's 30, that's complete. Wing up still doing 14.5.
We've got the lot covered for you here in Townsville on our mega wall. Pit lane is interesting to watch. Ford Performance Racing. Paul Dumbrell, car 55, leads the race. Will Davison is 5th, and Mark Winterbottom, the other FPR car, is currently 6th after starting from pole position.
Man of the match, though, Matthew, got to be Garth Tander. This has been a great drive for him. He's flying there at the moment on these hard tyres. He's got great history on his side at this racetrack. 2 third placings in 09, 2nd and a 3rd last year. Now they've got the car sorted for James Courtney, the steering arm, and James's wife Karis and the kids have come up this morning, and this weekend they're hoping for fortunes to change. He loves street circuits, and as Cameron described earlier, pretty gutting disappointment for him. So this is Tander just scything through the field at the moment, and his sector splits are impressive, and in fact, if anything, this car's looking better on its hard tyres than we've seen for a while.
Exactly right. You and I have discussing the speed and the gains that Tander's made, but one of the things, Neil, is he's short filmed there compared to the other guys. So he's come forward with 3 seconds less fuel, so his stop time in the next stop is going to be a longer stop. So it'll be interesting strategy as this unfolds. We saw Tander before the stops behind Whincup and Davison and Winterbottom.
They're putting another battery into this thing, so that means the alternator's failed, and it's been running on battery charge, and it's got towards the bottom of that charge, and they've had to replace it. So they put the jump battery in, which we've seen before.
He wants to get out.
That may be another issue.
Guys, they've had a few concerns, if you like. That contact, so it stopped his cool vest and helmet air and everything working, so Dave wants to get out, but it also popped the bead off the right rear of that soft tyre with the contact with Courtney, so a little bit of concern about what rear damage it could be as well. Yeah, and just as you were talking there, Ken, that's exactly what Dave Reynolds said. After saying I want to get out, he just said, oh, it's so hot in here. I've seen you guys and heard you guys and seen the effects of what happens when the cool suits fail. I remember Rick Kelly being dragged out at Adelaide. It's just extraordinary to think, and to think a young bloke, 26 years old, wants to pull the pin. He must be frying in there. Well, Dave Reynolds would be as fit, if not the fittest bloke in there. Paul Dumbrell and Dave Reynolds would be arguably the 2 fittest guys. Dave Reynolds, there's nothing worse when it stops, Matty. It's like an electric blanket. It makes you hotter than it would normally be. And Jamie Whincup said first thing this morning, this is the most physical race of the year because it's such a compact circuit. You don't get any time to rest. So I would not want to be in the seat of that car with a cool suit failing. Further on our strategy, Garth Tander has got to put 58 litres in to get to the end of this race, and Mark Winterbottom has got to put 48 litres in. So 10 seconds of fuel is where the 3 seconds effective, or 10 litres is where the 3 seconds lies.
But even though it's gone out there fractionally lighter, and it's a good pickup to see that strategy, still impressive lap speed on these tyres, so it may actually deliver them what they need. Track position, yes, they'll stand still for longer later. The safety car could give them a free kick,
no doubt,
if one comes along. This is the battle for the lead at the moment. It's half a second according to the computer. Dumbrell, Bottle Racing entry from Garth Tander. Great bounce back from the shocking run in Darwin. The Sky City Triple Crown for both the Toll HRT cars. Whincup watching briefing third. Will Davison and Mark Winterbottom fourth and fifth. Lowndes has been a bit quiet, hasn't he?
He has, and Whincup, they're the fastest of those top 10 cars with a 14.2 versus a 14.5. So Dumbrell from Tander, Whincup, Davison, Winterbottom, Lowndes, as Neil put out, he hasn't done anything Lowndes-esque yet, has he? He hasn't made an impact on this race yet. Holdsworth, Kelly, Caruso and Steve Owen are top 10. Just behind the top 10, Steve Johnson and Russell Engel in 11th and 12th.
Direct comparison there, watching those two cars, there's no question that the FPR engineered car was riding the curbs nicer. It's definitely allowing Paul Dumbrell to sneak through there quite well. It's been a real strength for those guys, and the Team Vodafone have got that working well for themselves too. Garth
flicks the lights on just to remind Paul that he's about to haunt him.
Is haunting, I think. It's become a now reality.
It's current. Ex-teammates.
They're quite good mates, aren't they? And but right at the moment, that applies for nothing. Here we go. It's a long way out. It's a long way out. Actually, Paul's been massively kind to him there. He thought about it, and then he went, no, I'll just hold up high until you actually eventually get it done.
Well, and Paul can't win races if you're going to be that much of a gentleman. I mean, the reality is he's going to get by, but you don't need to be out in the weeds to do it. So Tander makes the pass and goes into the lead. And as Neil said, a great fight back from one of the worst weekends that the Holden Racing team has ever experienced in Darwin. So in a very short period of time, Tander has made this car work on this style of circuit. Much higher grip level at this place. Very low grip level at Darwin. So whatever the technical issue is with the car, it works better here. And Tander into the lead from Dumbrell and Whincup. As I said, Whincup is the fastest.
Bargwanna.
And that's Bargwanna at turn 2.
Chip James, absolute shocker, mate. Wrong place at the wrong time there.
Yeah, Reynolds, I don't know what he was thinking. I was going up the inside, and then I think he tried to get into the pits and just, cleaned us up. I had nowhere to go. I couldn't disappear, or I don't know why I just didn't do another lap. So it ruined our race. It's a shame. Everyone worked so hard to get these things out, and that's the story of this year, really. It's wrong place, wrong time. So yeah, disappointing.
Have you made some progress with the car, though? I mean, can you bounce back tomorrow and find a bit more pace?
Yeah, look, we hope so. We're learning quite a bit with GT's car. It looks like he's doing pretty good at the moment. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of a test then, but it's too damaged to do anything. So we'll have a look at some data overnight and see what happens tomorrow.
Hard luck, mate.
Cheers, guys.
So things are right at the back of Jason Bargwanna's car. It's broken the Watts link, which secures the rear end in the car. And here's the reason why. Jonathan Webb in tons of trouble, and he obviously tags Jason Bargwanna pretty solidly here, then backs him up off the side of the road. So that's fractured the rear end of that car, and that's going to put that out of business, possibly for the entire race, but certainly for a long period of time. So they've got more gremlins here with this thing now. So the Stratco car, David Reynolds, after that brilliant, promising start.
Well, this will be alternator land now. Want to fix the alternator. Jonathan Webb, average move there to go down the inside of 2 cars and end up collecting Bargwanna. So Bargwanna, the innocent victim, and there's Dave Reynolds. As I said, he's a very fit young man. He's driven very well this weekend, but he's absolutely smashed. I can't reiterate this any more heavily than being inside that car. It would be something like 55 degrees and with an electric blanket in the end, because the water that goes through the cool suit, it gets increasingly hot inside your driving suit, and it just boils you. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Eventually it matches the air temperature.
That's right.
And body language there of David suggested that he was literally starting to doze off. I mean, it was really getting to him. Cam?
Davey, mate, are you... the heat in the car was obviously unbearable, but it was an awesome first stint, buddy.
Yeah, no, my first stint was pretty good. It was just the cool suit failed like lap 1 or 2, and I just got hotter and hotter and hotter. It was just like a little tea kettle in there. I was going all delirious, thinking of God knows what. Oh, mate, it's hard.
Good luck for recovery, and we hope you don't you find that black cat that you're talking about and get rid of it for tomorrow.
What's going on, mate?
Better luck tomorrow, buddy.
I need a drip. Got one?
Can't help you there.
We've got a couple in the commentary box.
He's a funny young guy. He's got a good sense of humour. You go away. You go away.
You could learn a few good lines off him.
He's good.
He's a great character. He's a real iconic character. He just comes out with absolute gems. And that's why it was so surprising. When he said, I wanted out of the car, I thought, I mean, things must be really tough. That's how tough this game is. And then you add the heat of Townsville, the street circuit effect, all the walls, not to mention the competition. No wonder.
No consolation barge, but they gave him a drive-through.
This is great stuff at the Sucrogen 400. Garth Tander, who started 5th, is leading the race from Paul Dumbrell. David Reynolds, who took a good chunk of the race lead on soft tyres, is now in his garage, desperately searching for some cool water after frying in a cool suit fail. And there are now 33 laps to go in this 200-kilometre race.
And this is a pretty healthy battle with Winterbottom, Lowndes and Holdsworth. But the interesting thing, Neil, is we said the critical lap number is sort of 42, 43. If the safety car comes out in the next 4 or 5 laps, you have to put the soft tyre on. What do you do? It's a regulation. You've got to put those tyres on. They can't make 30 laps. So there's there will be some real head scratching in pit lane at the moment in terms of how these strategies will play out.
That's right. To just reiterate that point, it's not an option. You've got to use the soft tyre at some point as Whincup puts that move on Dumbrell. For second. So Tander, Whincup, Dumbrell, new order. Then Will Davison, Mark Winterbottom, Craig Lowndes, Lee Holdsworth. Temperature's just easing slightly out there as you'd expect now. Dunlop advising air is 27, track is 31.
And this race now is totally cleansed. It's all about how far you can get in to get to this lap number. And we've seen already some real drama. A great start.
Yeah, good start by Mark Winterbottom. You just got the feeling that Jamie Whincup to his left blinked for a split second, and he doesn't normally do that. And in the blink of an eye, he went from first to third. It was game on down at turn 1. David Reynolds made his presence felt straight away on the soft tyre. So from the get-go, Reynolds and Paul Dumbrell were the only two on soft tyres. Winterbottom, starting from pole position, was quickly hunted down by the Stratco car 16. And from there on, David Reynolds, who's won a Carrera Cup Championship, a Formula 4 Championship, enjoyed leading the V8 Supercar race until an almighty incident with James Courtney, who dead set can't take a trick in 2011. Some big-time damage for car 1. On the other end of the scale, for Toll HRT, Garth Tander's just been simply brilliant. He got the race lead back, and this is where things really started to go in disarray for David Reynolds. More on that in a second. That was Jonathan Webb giving a big blindside to Jason Bargwanna. So the effect was that David Reynolds' cool suit had failed on lap 1. He made, what was it, 20-odd laps without a cool suit. You're tipping over 50 degrees inside the cockpit, and at the same time he was boiling the kettle underneath his race vest. He's out of the race with mechanical damage as well. After all that, on lap 42 of 72, and hold the phone for a second. That's tagged it too. Fabian Coulthard has tagged the wall. Don't know how much damage it's done. Maybe Todd Kelly's tagged him as well, yes.
Well, and it's bent the steering on Todd's car. He's coming in. So they've obviously had some previous drama. Here we go. So Todd has made contact. That's actually, is that afterwards or before? That's afterwards. That's a little payback afterwards.
Nice.
So it was a bit cheeky of Fabian because he got wide. He'd already given the wall a bump. And at that stage, you've got to give it up. You've got to basically say, look, I don't need to run into the next car. So when he fired down the inside, he got Todd, and that's why Todd has escorted him at a different venue. It's a bit of something coming out of the back of that, of
things
Craig
like
Lowndes.
It looks like it's got a leak of some description.
Boys, just reflecting on some of the incidents we've seen, particularly that Courtney Reynolds one, I want to show these guys aren't dills. They don't just run into each other. You have a real lack of vision in the car. If you look at any modern racing helmet, the aperture here, very, very small. But add to that, most of the seats now have a big wing around here like this for lateral support, so some vision goes there. In the race car, looking from above, our drivers now sit very rearward compared to your road car at home. So the B pillar, or the centre pillar here, it sits in here as well. Very, very restricted. Your revision mirrors, I can tell you from where you sit in the car, very narrow field of vision, like this it is. And from the rear of the car, you've got a wing to look through here with your rear view mirror there. So there's all sorts of things. So you can imagine, you go and position a car here, you just can't see it. It's very, very difficult.
Like, I leave that up there for a second because what you've just drawn on the front is effectively the peripheral vision. That's what we always refer to. So you've got to get your car to the point where the driver can see it. And in the James Courtney circumstance, you can see the witness mark on the rear door of Dave Reynolds' car. Dave could not see him. It was behind the B pillar, and that's why it made contact so heavily.
It's a good explanation, Larko. It's just impossible to see out of these things. Will Davison gets past his teammate, Paul Dumbrell. So Will goes up into third, having a great run this weekend. And ditto that remark for the entire FPR garage, because those two are obviously third and fourth, and behind them is Mark Winterbottom.
And what you get from those two rear view mirrors either side of the car and in the centre of the car, just up to the left of the driver, basically is glimpse of colour. That's about what you get. You get a sense of where somebody is. Seriously, don't you?
That's right.
You know? And you know that someone's hassling you. And that's why you see people ducking and diving when they're under the back of a wing of the preceding car. They're trying to unsettle them and literally trying to find a position where they get lost in the mirrors.
But what you used to do to me is you'd move it over and just rub it against it. It was like Morse code. You'd move it over until it made contact.
Right, Scafey. How many little meetings you have round by the Dunnies at the track with Neil, eh? Sorry, mate, didn't see you. Sorry, mate, couldn't see you.
So, the interesting thing about strategy now is Tander has to put 14.5 seconds of fuel in. Mark Winterbottom has 12 seconds of fuel. Whincup has 13 seconds of fuel. Whincup is 5.5 seconds behind Tander, but there's 3.5 seconds, or 2 at least, in the fuel stop time, we think. So the gap that he's got to continue to forge a little per lap, not use it too hard, just sneak away as much as he can before we make this last stop.
And ideally, you really want to find yourself in the early 50s. You know, you just want to sneak this little stint along as much as you can now.
Exactly.
So that you're ideally aiming for a window. We hate using that terminology, but you want to aim to do about 20-odd laps at the end, I think, on the softer of the tyres.
Push it out to lap 52 and it should be okay, but just going off those numbers, Scafey, that you were just talking about, there's going to be nothing in it when they all pop out of pit lane.
Absolutely.
If it stays this close.
This has been a good battle with these guys. Dumbrell's about to come in. So I think we just saw him go off to the left, yes. And Winterbottom, Lowndes and Holdsworth continue their battle. Just up ahead is Will Davison. And just up ahead of them is Tander and Whincup. A big moment for Rick Kelly as he goes off at turn 7, re-emerges at 8, and almost gyrates on the way out of 8 to 9 because...
That was lucky.
Well, the grass just gets on the hot tyre, doesn't it?
James Courtney's gone back out there too as Dumbrell comes in.
7 laps to go.
So Tandon leads from Whincup, Davison, Winterbottom, Lowndes, Holdsworth, Kelly, Owen, Steve Johnson and Russell Ingall. That's your top 10.
And this is where all that track position...
It's a long stop.
Yeah, all that track position that Paul gained early on the softer tyre, that was Dave Patterson on the radio, his engineer. This is where they pay the price now. They've got to come in. This is fueled now and tired to the end of the race. He's got to do 27 laps on these tyres, which he'll do easily.
On the hard tyre.
On the hard tyre, because Paul Dumbrell stopped just then to grab his hard tyre, having used the soft one in the opening stint of this race.
And the others will be doing early 20s on the soft tyre. There's going to be a massive speed difference in this race. Stay with us. This is going to be fantastic.
Yeah, mate, these tyres have to last 27 laps. Complete. Keep chugging along.
We're getting towards a nerve-wracking and fascinating part of this race. 25 laps to go. The critical number they're looking for, the critical lap number these guys are looking for is lap 52. If they can take it out to lap 52, then they'll be fueled and ready to go for the end of the race. And remember, pretty much the entire field will put soft tyres on.
That's right.
So,
and we're talking ishes, because it's, you know, when we say they want to do 20 laps, it's ish. You know, some are going to do 21, some are going to do 22, some will make it 18, but you know what I'm saying.
What sort of language is that?
It's a strange Neil language. Dumbrell's done the fastest lap of the race, by the way, just then on a 1:13.6 on the harder tyre. Full fuel and hard tyres, so he's got pretty good pace.
The other interesting little aspect here, do you do what Russell Ingall and a couple of these guys have just done, get them on a little earlier? You might pay a price, but you can defend perhaps for the last 2 or 3 laps of the race while everyone's on the same worn tyres, because at the moment, whilst most of the field's on hard and there's only a few on softs, you are gaining that valuable track position. So it's a little bit of a when do I put them on game going on as well.
And I guess the other point too, Scafie, is some cars operate better on the harder tyres. Some cars yet haven't got, some teams and cars and drivers haven't come to grips, if you like, with the softer tyre. They can't make it work better.
No doubt. It's the first time that we've ever used the soft tyre at this place. And some cars, given the grip level at this circuit's quite high, they work well on the harder tyre. Clearly, Tander's strategy in the middle part of this race has worked very well for him to get an almost 5-second lead over Whincup. But on the soft tyre, traditionally the HRT car hasn't used those tyres as well as Whincup. He's been the benchmark guy on the softer tyre as Alex Davison dribbles into the pit. There's something wrong with that car.
There you go. Punches the word and Tander in. Okay. So he's come out to 49, lap 49, so completed 48.
He just hit the end of pit lane marker coming in. That normally will give you grief. Have a look there. Left-hand side of the screen. Bang.
Yeah,
that's ugly.
It's not good. And he'll put on the softer tyre now, and he's got to get 23 laps out of them. They'll be pretty second-hand at the end. Interesting to see whether or not race control reacts to that. And Whincup is in as well. Different fuel strategies between both the teams, remember. Here's Whincup. They'll have to spend longer with Tander to get the fuel in. Watch where they come out together. Should still be Garth by a narrow margin.
It's going to be close. There goes Garth.
So they tightened up the margin between them. This is the race to the end.
This is on.
So as expected, Tander hung on, but that gap that he enjoyed, which was out to about 5 seconds, has come right down now. That's a couple of seconds, maybe 3. We'll see what they both look like on cold tyres. Don't forget that Davison and Winterbottom are there or thereabouts as well. We'll see how their stops unfold. And then it's going to be about who can look after their tyres nicely in the back end of this race. So managing the car, you're going to have to drive this thing off your fingertips for the first few laps, not get sideways, not excite the tyre. You push too hard too early, and there's a big invoice at the end.
So remember, Paul Dumbrell did 21 full laps on the softs from the start of the race. David Reynolds got a few more out of his, but they went away super quick. So these guys are asking just a lap or 2 more out of their soft tyres. That's what they want out of them. Will Davison been super consistent today.
Just been informed that race control are having a look at Tander's arrival. It'll be a shame if that is the case, but I mean,
it's a cruel penalty, isn't it? So there's Will Davison. This is Lee Holdsworth. In the background, Steve Owen's been doing a good job through the day, so he's in for soft tyres also.
Now, the other interesting one, Alex Davidson is in his garage with also, like his team player here, another broken axle, left-hand axle. And that's very, in fact, I'm wrong. It's a right-hand side. No, it's not. It is a left-hand side. Very unusual. And the axles, I can tell, they're very conventional looking. Nothing tricky or clever going on there, like me.
Is it conventional, Larko, to get your lefts and rights wrong? Is that standard?
Well, it really depends, mate. You've got to work out first if you're standing at the front or the back of the car.
Get a texter. Right, L on one hand, R on the other.
Jason Bright's done the fastest lap of the race, 1:13.5. This is looking at Craig Lowndes from Mark Winterbottom's car, from his rear bumper bar.
These were the leaders coming in, Winterbottom and Lowndes. They were in front of Rick Kelly. So now Rick Kelly leads until everybody has completed their second stop.
No penalty for Garth Tander, and I think that's a good call.
Well, there'll be a lot of flack about that because there has been traditionally a penalty for doing that. So, again, I agree, it's a good call. It's one of those ones where the penalty doesn't fit the crime.
Yeah, if it's something less than a drive-through, then I agree, but I reckon a drive-through for that would be pretty tough.
Ooh. That had all the ingredients of being rather ugly. But thankfully they all came out okay. Craig Lowndes had to tuck in behind Jonathan Webb. Mark's going to go and had to wait for Carl Reindler. Larko?
Scafie, I can only agree with you on that, mate. When you hit that yellow line like Garth did, I mean, you either you hit it or you don't. You know, there just does need to be some consistency there, and we've seen guys nailed for crossing the line, and I don't know how there's anything in between.
I agree, Larko. There's clearly the judicial system, firstly, is about being fair, and then it's about being consistent. I don't ever think that crossing the line has been a fair penalty, because anything like a drive-through penalty is too severe. However, if you've penalised other people for it, then you've got to continue it on. So there will be a lot of controversy about that tonight, given that they've decided not to penalise Garth Tander.
I'm not sure that he crossed the line. He hit the bollard, but I'm not sure did he actually cross the line.
I reckon if he didn't, he was as close as you're going to get. The good news is, out of all of that, let's leave the judicial side to one side. For us, and for you at home, you get to see a full-blown, flat-out race between the two leading drivers at the front.
This is Holdsworth down the inside of Craig Lowndes. They've been battling all day, and he gets that pass. That was a critical pass for Lee, because he's been behind Craig. He hasn't been able to do anything with him, and he makes a very good pass into turn 3. This is Lee Holdsworth down the inside of Jonathan Webb. We've seen the dramas that Jonathan's had through the day so far. So Tander, Whincup, Davison Dumbrell, Winterbottom, Holdsworth, Lowndes, Rick Kelly, Steve Owen and Jason Bright roll out your top 10.
Greg Murphy is going to get a penalty for crossing the blend line on the pit exit, car 11. 399th race, so we didn't see that, but I just heard that on the race management channel.
Coming into this race, Jamie Whincup had a 156-point lead over his teammate. If the positions stay the way they are, he'll have extended that lead by, 42 points. Shane Van Gisbergen remains in third and Rick Kelly in fourth, so no change to the order. But Whincup's just critically got a few more points up his sleeve than his teammate.
So the blend line that Greg Murphy has been caught for is the yellow line coming out of the pits. There's clearly a different scenario coming in, but it's usually assessed the same way. And this is Garth Tander coming into the pits on the left-hand side. Yep, it's across the other side of the small, we call it the floppy, that little yellow bollard. And the car runs across and across that line. So, as I said, there will be some drama. That's Alistair McVeigh. He won't like that on his monitor with that replay. And that look of innocence is the poker player look.
You got it, don't you? That's when they stand in pit lanes and don't stop it. Don't put those replays up. You're not doing us any favours. Back after this. Fair bit of action all around that mega wall in pit lane. Some stories of drama as James Courtney's had another tough day. Race control also under scrutiny. In car we go with Jamie Whincup, second behind Garth Tander, who leads by 3.8 seconds. So they've got enough fuel, we know that. But what about the tyres? They're on soft tyres. Can they go the distance? Who can make them last better and keep the pace in them?
Exactly, Matt. And the thing about this phase of the race, this is only the first 4 or 5 laps on these tyres, is that you have to be patient now, because even bad cars get masked by good tyre grip. So what you'll find is that the first part of this, everyone will do similar speed when you put this very fresh, grippy tyre on the car. As they start to deteriorate, then there'll be differences between their lap speed. We've seen that a lot through the year, Crombo, haven't we, where bad cars hurt the tyre a lot. Down the inside, good pass. Lee Holdsworth on Mark Winterbottom.
Yeah, and Craig Lowndes has gone past Mark as well. And by the way, Lee Holdsworth did a lap record time, 1:13.416.
And this is the real thing that we explained before, that some cars work well on the soft tyre and others don't. FPR have been the team this year, along with HRT, but certainly FPR have really struggled on the soft tyre. And that is evidenced by the 2 blokes that have just passed him.
And Craig Lowndes, the last time we made mention of him, we made mention of the fact that he hasn't really done anything Lowndes-esque at this stage of the race. Perhaps this is his time to start peeking through. He's already got past Winterbottom. In front of him is Holdsworth. Going by that form guide, Team Vodafone managed to get the best out of the soft tyre. Perhaps Lowndes can start to make a move on lap 56 out of 72.
I'm interested watching the comparative pace between Tander and Whincup at the moment, because Garth typically got a 10th or 2 at every sector over Jamie. The question is that because he's pushing those tyres harder, or is that car comfortable in doing that? This is this nice little battle here between Craig Lowndes and Mark Winterbottom, and Lowndes sneaking up the inside. Had to grab the brake as he made the transition to the right-hander at turn 6. Lowndes just to get the car right. Let's check the gaps for you. Tander. There's the margin back to Whincup.
So that's second.
Here's third.
Third, Will Davison, Paul Dumbrell.
On the hard tyre. He's the odd man out in the gang.
And he's been overtaken by Holdsworth. So there's traffic in between all of those guys.
Rick Kelly here on screen at the moment. He's 8th. And there's Steve Owen, the VIP Pet Foods car. He's just masked at the moment, but yeah, you can see him. He's 9th. Jason Bright, who's been flying in 10th. Bright actually for a while had the lap record. So Bright's actually jumped up the field strategically. They've played a good card.
Started 21st, Brighty, so he's come up to inside the top 10 now.
That was Van Gisbergen, just come through in 13th.
And Paul Forgy was counselling him early that, look, let's not worry about what happened with his teammate Tim Slade lap 1. If you joined us late, then there was contact between the teammates the final turn, and his words are proving to be correct, because just by keeping his head down and getting the job done, he's going to be just outside the top 10 at the end of this, and there's a good solid points haul for that.
Now, I was just saying about FPR, that the contrary view to that is that Will Davison is going very strongly in third position. Someone's down the inside.
I think it's Lowndes, is it, on Dumbrell? And he's actually got the job done. So he now moves to 5th. So that was a dive bomb move down the inside. Remember that he's got a grip advantage in that process because Paul's on the harder tyre. He's actually hanging in there with lap speed at the moment, though, Dumbrell.
Oh, and he was deep under brakes, and I thought he was going to drill the back of Lowndes. Under brakes, the soft tyre braking grip is better. The hard tyre obviously doesn't quite pull up enough. And as you said, Dumbrell's speed is actually quite impressive on that tyre versus the guys that are on the sprint, the softer tyre. So Tander, Whincup, Davison, Holdsworth, Lowndes, it's the top 5. They're all on the soft tyre. Then Dumbrell on the hard tyre in 6th.
And it's a tortoise and hare argument for Paul Dumbrell, because for a while these guys around him will be pests. Then on the softer tyre, the speed will taper at a far greater rate than the tapering speed on the hard tyre. So Paul's got to think 5 laps,
he does,
10 laps down the road and not do anything too rash at the moment. He'll have to accept that he could be monstered early, and then just start to play his cards back again.
That's a really good point, because you've got to accept when your speed isn't quite good enough that you will be overtaken, but later in the race you'll be back on the march again.
And it's very hard, because instinctively race drivers want to fight for every millimetre, every lap, and not give away anything.
Laps remaining, Mark.
Jamie Whincup just steps by Dean Fiore. He steps aside. Dean's down in 20th spot, so well and truly out of order. And that was that move that we saw from...
Well, that's Lowndes-esque.
There you go. And we were waiting for it to happen. That's what we saw from out the back of Paul Dumbrell's car.
Seriously close to the
Also,
bumper.
That was close.
The regiment looking on.
And Mark Dutton not looking too happy, because they're losing ground on Tander. It's 5.05 seconds now. The gap was about 3.5 when they first went out after this stop. So Tander's speed on the soft tyre is actually proving to be better than Whincup. And that's the new AstroTurf that's been applied to the exit of turn 6. And because the cars slide there, it's effectively ripped that AstroTurf up.
It's now old. It's now the old AstroTurf.
1-800 carpet layer tonight to get that sorted.
Looks like the backyard of your joint. You don't mow anything, do you? That's what you've got.
So Tander's now out to just over 5 seconds.
You've been known to cut to people's grass, haven't you?
I'm just ignoring you. 114.4. Whincup 114.8. Davison 114.6. Now compare that with Dumbrell on the harder tyre, 115.6. So those drivers that are in the top 6 positions at the moment have all got the soft tyre, and Dumbrell on the harder tyre is just still fractionally slower. We'll see whether that trend starts to shift as we mow down the path of using up these softer tyres. But Tander's continuing to march, Scafie. That's now, even on this lap, he's put another ½ second on Jamie Whincup.
And Will Davison is taking ground off Whincup also. He's only 0.7 of a second behind Will, and that's the gap that you can see. So Will Davison in the FPR Falcon is doing a very good job compared with Mark Winterbottom, who qualified so impressively earlier today. And in the race, Will Davison is taking ground off Whincup.
Fastest guy out there on the racetrack at the moment is actually Shane Van Gisbergen. His last lap was a high 13.
Yeah.
He's 13th at the moment. And in fact, there are several drivers. Russell Ingall one of them, Todd Kelly,
Jason Bright
in the mid-pack with very, very good speed, but they don't have track position.
Let me alert you to a little byproduct of the game going on between Garth Tander and Jamie Whincup out in front. As you mentioned, Garth's got a 5-point-second lead ahead of this man. Overall, on the all-time scoreboard, if Garth Tander can win this race today, he will overtake Peter Brock on the all-time list and slot into 3rd.
This is Paul Dumbrell getting chopped up here at the moment. Here it is again. Jonathan Webb this time in the mother car down the inside.
And on the flip side to that, if Jamie Whincup can get past Garth, Jamie will go equal with Garth Tander on the all-time race list. So there's a lot at stake out the front.
The other fella that's very quick at the moment, and we haven't made a lot of fuss about him, is Lee Holdsworth in 4th.
Yes.
His last lap was a 1:14 neat. He's got a chunky speed advantage over the 3 cars in front of him at the moment. Whether he's using too much of that rubber too soon, we'll discover. But his last lap was pretty impressive, and he is 10 seconds exactly off the lead, 5 seconds off second place, Jamie Whincup. And that margin first to second is static at the moment at 5.5 seconds. And there's Lee completing a lap out of turn 13. So driving the car extremely straight on the exit there.
He's showing great maturity this year, hasn't he? That technique that you just saw there at turn 13, Neil made reference to the exit. He turned the car very aggressively but very precisely. He made the car make the apex. He made the exit of the corner very straight, so he squared the rear tyres up. He was early on the throttle and he made a very nice exit to the corner as we pick up this great Supergen chopper shot of Lee attacking these corners. And have a look at that, even on the exit there, no wheel spin, nice exit drive. And that's the way to get the best life out of these soft tyres.
And again, of the first 5 cars on the racetrack, at the timing monitor at the first sector split, Lee was the fastest by a 10th on this lap that we're watching him from the chopper here at the moment.
And 2/10 faster than Tander at the second split. So what you said before, in terms of those top 4 cars, he is the fastest. And that's the ground that he's been taking off
And
Will Davison.
A new lap record around this racetrack at a 1:13.4160. So nice work, Lee Holdsworth. In his own words, he's got a bit of unfinished business here based on having that fantastic run for pole back in 09 and then the heartbreak of a failure in the race that weekend. We're going to stay on board here with Will Davison, Trading Post Racing. And this is the run against the sun. There's turn 1 down into the braking area at 2. So we'll crank up the sound and have a look and listen at all this.
That's Whincup in front. Have a look at the workload, Neil. I mean, here's the bunkers for the 2 teams, looking on pretty intently with Whincup and Will Davison battling on the track with only about half a second between those 2 cars. And the way they achieve their speed, we often say, is a lot different. But Will is using the brake very hard. He only just got the car stopped on the lap that we were on board for. But he's doing a good job.
They're frantically calculating something at Ford Performance Racing at the moment. They've just given him a radio message. That's Grant McPherson on the right and Matt Nilsson on the left, and the lower left-hand side of your screen. So it might be fuel map. They might be going to give him some more fuel in one more lap or something of that nature, because clearly they've done their stop, they've taken on their fuel, they've given it the tyres it needs. But that's an intriguing battle at the moment. Tander's margin is out to 5.7 seconds. Tander, Whincup, Davison. It's a great battle.
8 laps to go, mate. Whincup. 8 to go. Hold the tyres and say, mate, 8 to do. Doing a great job. Mate, just pull over if you can. Pull over or keep going? Nearly back to the pits, mate, turn 11. Done. Repeat.
A little bit of late race drama here for Warren Luff that could have had an effect on the rest of the field. The Gulf Western Oil racer has got some damage at the rear of car 30, and there was a chance he was going to have to pull over on the side of the track, and for a split second there I thought, oh, safety car. But thankfully Warren has got it back into pit lane. So Garth Tander is the race leader by 5.77 seconds over Jamie Whincup. We're on lap 65 out of 72. Will Davison is third. And this will be the incident that, so it just went on him there at turn 6. He had to go straight ahead.
We'll get to the bottom of it, but all these things, these failures that you're seeing are relating to these huge impacts with the curbs here at high speed. There's been varying types of failures, axle failures, diff housing failures, but it'll be something in that realm. It'll be a shock. Or
exactly, it looked like it broke a shock, didn't it? Because it just basically hung down in the right rear.
So this is Whincup and Davison you were just looking at. There's our race leader, Tander. He's been in control since the last round of pit stops. He's done it well, 6 seconds now.
Just observing Craig Lowndes, lap speed 2. It was a 1:14 even on that lap, and on that basis, he's going to be quite a pest for Lee Holdsworth. It's a real good battle between those two, but on the numbers that we're currently seeing, if he holds the 6-second margin that he currently has, Garth Tander, he's going to keep intact that perfect score of standing on the podium here for every race he's done at Townsville. How's that, Wilbur?
Close.
He got the 150 sign.
That was wasn't even standing room on the left-hand side of that car. I mean, it was just a couple of thousandths of an inch off the wall, wasn't it? It was amazing.
Bit of an update for you guys on Warren Luff being pushed into the garage. Looks like a rear arm failure somewhere off the diff housing. It's just completely failed, so nearly but not quite for Warren Luff.
Yeah, so it's in that area that we spoke about, Cameron. The backs of the cars are getting a real whack at the moment. So here it is, game on, Lowndes and Holdsworth. We talked about this a moment ago. And crisscross move, Lowndes, not a bad idea to jump to the inside. He'd be unsighted for a moment, but Lee turns down. Now he gives him some space. Great exchange between these two. And Lowndes gets it done on the run up to turn 3.
Really good bit of driving from both guys. Gave each other room to race. Both very committed under brakes. And Lowndes, it's a very hard thing to do, to move the car across whilst the car's quite unsettled and get the car stopped without making contact. Great job.
And into the setting sun. It's very difficult down there at turn 2 at this time of day. You can see that from our images. Here it is again from above. Check it out. And this is after Craig had done the reposition of the car, and Lee turned and then sensed that colour that I spoke about before, which is completely the opposite colour to what you normally expect when you see a Team Vodafone car.
We shouldn't see the camouflage car.
It's supposed to be hiding in the background somewhere, isn't it?
It wasn't a stealth move. He knew he was there. So Jeremy Moore, Adrian Burgess, and to the further left of that screen, Mark Dutton, who's in control of Jamie Whincup's car. So 5.6 seconds is the difference at the front between Tander and Whincup. You're riding with Steve Owen, qualified inside the top 10. And he's going to have a look at Paul Dumbrell, and he will get Paul Dumbrell. So Owen goes up to 8th for the VIP Pet Foods entry, and Jonathan Webb tries to step away.
It's interesting. I thought that by now we see the re-emergence of Paul Dumbrell and those on the soft tyre beginning to fade. Remember, temperatures on their side. There's a bit more breeze out there and a little bit of cloud cover here and there, so it might just be aiding those on the softer tyre. The other open question is whether or not Lee Holdsworth used too much of the tyre, or not him personally, but his car has eaten up the tyre too much in the early phase of that stint, and that's allowed Craig Lowndes to get in the game, although I'd have to say Lowndes' speed's very, very good.
And Whincup's coming back at Tander. On this lap, he's 4/10 up already to the second sector, and the gap is back to 5 seconds. So there's 3/4 of a second over the last couple of laps that Whincup has taken out of that lead. So again, how hard you use the tyre early is a big part of getting the best yield.
We made mention earlier of this young man, Shane Van Gisbergen, who's been going hard. Remember, he got turned around by his teammate at the opening stage of this race, went to the rear of the field. He's now worked his way back up to 12th.
It's a great job. They haven't had great speed in that car this weekend. Consider he qualified 22nd, and whenever you end up turned around back of the field, you know, your heart sinks and it's easy to drop your bundle. They encouraged him from the bunker, and he'll be starting to sense now that there's some points at the end of all that pain.
He won our last race up in Darwin for his second race win of the season. Here's Jason Bright now having a look at Paul Dumbrell. So Dumbrell's well and truly under attack.
He looked like you could actually see Paul glancing to his right rear view mirror then to make sure that he gave space to Bright. So that's Paul Dumbrell 10th. He's the leader. 4.1 seconds now. So your observation's rock solid.
And you can see him. He can now see, I don't know whether it's time for group hugs yet, because he can now see Jamie Whincup well and truly behind him.
That's Mike Henry closest to camera.
Ivan Krisman on the left.
And Mike's taken the role as racing operations manager at the Toll Holden Racing Team. So I reckon that Tander will have enough in hand, but it's never done until you get there at the end of these races, given the way the tyres can change, what the traffic can do. So Tander will have to be careful.
He knows the Whincup's there. The good news for Garth is that there's two other cars in between, Tony D'Alberto and Greg Murphy. The even better news is 4.2 seconds is the difference. So Garth started in 5th position. He's really driven a beautiful race. And given all the troubles that's been happening for the Holden Racing Team, it's been very unsettled in the last few months there. They got back down to business after Darwin, which was by anyone's count a shocker. James Courtney just ran into pure bad luck again today.
Fingers crossed there from Courtney. Genuinely wishing Garth Tander the best in the closing laps of this race.
This would be just the boost they needed.
And
there's Whincup.
He's got around Murphy, so there's only one car in between them. Lap traffic, that is, in between Tander and Whincup.
Winterbottom's half a chance to grab Lee Holdsworth here too at the moment for 5th place, because Lee's clearly beginning to find himself in trouble with tyre degradation. So he's struggling. 1:15.4 last lap for Lee Holdsworth, 1:14.9 for Mark Winterbottom, and there's only 0.5 of a second between those fellas on the computer timing last time through the control line on the main straight.
And a 14.0 for Lowndes, so he's right up onto the back of Will Davison now too.
He's rocketing lately.
He is really going fast. He's the fastest guy on the circuit at the moment.
Yeah, and we said early on that it was a quiet early display from Craig, but it's not now. It's full of flamboyance, great lap speed. 1:14.0 is very quick with well-used tyres. When did he stop? Lap 51, and we're on lap 71. So 20 laps already worked into these tyres, and he's doing lap speed that's almost as good as their peak values.
Exactly, and Will Davison only just got that car stopped then. He had to hit it with the second gear to pull it up. Lowndes has got a sniff. Oh, don't do that now. So have a look down here at 13. He'll crisscross. Get a run, get a run, get a run, and then pop down the inside. No.
Will's onto it.
Will covers him.
Craig's best bet's going to be turn 2. A little bit of patience and do it at turn 2 if he can get it done.
And he got a good exit. So he was out a little bit wide. He's got a good exit, and Will Davison will move to the right to protect.
Now, Craig will learn from what he did earlier because he knows that it worked for him and try and do it again. But Will's got it in the gutter on the right-hand side. So Lowndes now tries to go round the long way. Awkward.
That's not the spot to be. He can't be out there.
Oh, Will Davison's done a terrific job there, holding him off. But it's not done yet. Lowndes pulls right up alongside him. Will shuts the door again. Craig has another look, this time on the other side. Meanwhile, Garth Tander out in front by 3.7 seconds. This battle will not let go. Lowndes versus Davison for 3rd spot in this race. They're rubbing panels. Nose to tail. They continue to rub panels.
I think Craig had it all in the dirt then. He's going to have to be careful because this is important. It's the last lap. Here comes Tander.
And what about Garth Tander, though? They asked the question, would being a new father slow him down? Not on your life. Little Scarlett Tander, this is what Daddy does best. Yeah, baby. Garth Tander wins from Jamie Whincup, but let's go back for 3rd, and Will Davison will just hold him off. Davison gets there over Craig Lowndes. Well, what a thrilling finish to this race. An absolute jubilation at the Holden Racing Team. He signed a new contract, a long-term contract to stay there. They come out of just the worst weekend you could imagine at Darwin. He celebrates the birth of his first child with wife Leanne, and then comes here and delivers his 49th race win, puts him above the great Peter Brock into third time on the all-time winners list. That's some kind of day for Garth Tander.
Fantastic achievement, a very good drive, good strategy from the team. And as you can see, the celebrations there with all the guys from Toll HRT. What a bounce back from one of the worst weekends in history at Darwin to come to North Queensland and turn on a show like this. A fantastic effort from everyone concerned.
Crowd love it. And not only is this a great event, I mean, we don't have to talk it up. It's a great place to watch racing because you can see it all the way around the circuit. Look at it. You just get to, you literally get to feel the V8 supercar as it rumbles past you. And that's a good win for Garth Tander. His second win of the season. He won on the Saturday in Adelaide. And Jamie Whincup and Will Davison. That'll be one to remember too for Will, holding off Craig Lowndes. And Craig was in that kind of mood. Shane Van Gisbergen at one stage was last on this racetrack, punches up into 11th. Good signs for him tomorrow in his 400th race. Greg Murphy finishes 19th. Jason Bargwanna in the wars, and David Reynolds, well, he had the lead of the race for quite a long time in the early stages. Tim Slade had dramas, Alex Davison too, and James Courtney is the polar opposite story in the HRT garage. One side celebrating a fantastic win, but Courtney wondering when his luck will turn. That was fun.
Was fun, and a good job, Will Davison, to hold out Craig Lowndes. We know how aggressive he is at the end, and Garth Tander will be absolutely, he'll be euphoric over this win. This is a great win for Garth and his career.
That's a worthy celebration. That's a hard day at the office. He's put his faith back into the Holden Racing team, and he's delivered in the best way you can.
That was astonishing pace from Lowndes so late on that tyre set. I mean, all of a sudden he was just a jet, wasn't he? But he didn't have track position when it counted. But congratulations to Tander. Be curious to go back to your earlier point, Mark, about what everybody thinks of what happened with the pit lane entry, and there'll be no doubt some furious debate in pit lane about that.
Hey, Neil, I just want to grab back Garth Tander. Congratulations, mate. That's a great win, and let's put that in perspective. You rolled the car out of the truck on Friday morning, wasn't good, and at a time when you really needed a great team effort, we got one.
Yeah, oh, mate, awesome job by the team. Everyone wrote us off after Darwin, said we'd had it, we were finished, HRT was no more, and the team just kept believing. It's unbelievable. So this is all theirs. They gave me a car that was absolutely awesome. We could do a couple of laps in the middle there, got us track position. Then the car on the soft tyre was absolutely awesome. So I think fatherhood agrees with me, Larko.
Well, I said to you, mate, that the brake markers will increase when you have kids, but I was actually wrong, mate.
No, I told you, got to put food on the table. So hello, Scarlett. There we go, first win. So absolutely awesome.
Well done, great effort. Just see if I can find Jamie Whincup around here. Here he is. Hey, Jamie, great effort, second place, but I know you well enough, mate, to know that second never makes you overly happy, particularly when you saw the pace of that red thing in front of you.
Full credit to those boys. They did a fantastic job, and tough 200 Ks. We'll fight back tomorrow, but hey, what a great event. Everyone's out here having good fun.
Yep. Okay, mate, well done again. And we'll catch up. Hey, Will Davo, mate, let's forget the race. Let's talk about that last lap with Lowndesy. That was outstanding.
Hey, listen, there's already two of those red things on the podium, so I didn't want three to be up there. And, you know, I thought we were looking all right with that 5 to go, and then I just hit a cliff, and he was coming, and I thought, I'm not letting this podium go. Absolutely no way. So it's just so good to have the trading post Falcon back on the podium for the second time of the year, and the speed was really encouraging, and had a lot of fun.
Well done, mate. Haven't seen blocking like that since Johnny Bow left. Well done.
What are you doing? I got third, didn't I?
You did get third, yes.
That was good blocking.
Will just wanted to make sure, by the way. That was fantastic. What a way to finish the race. And isn't it great to hear Will just say, I'm not letting that podium go. I worked too hard to give it up. And he pushed it all the way to the end.